You do whatever you want to do, Michael. We'll just be right here. So you go right ahead.
That'll give you time to stop and breathe.
That's right.
He's suffering from massive embarrassment.
Please, it's okay, Michael.
It's not okay.
We're fine. Everybody, we're good. Aren't we good?
We're
So just
glad you're
relax.
here. We sang without you, and we need you.
It's clear that we
I
need
led
you,
the last
Michael.
song, and it was not good.
This little light in history.
Well, good morning, everyone. Let's just take a deep breath, and this feels like a grown Sunday to me. What do you think? And we might even do some sacred laughter. Let's do some sacred laughter first. Now, we haven't done that for a while. So let's do some sacred laughter. And Michael, if you want to join in, that's fine, because it might feel good to you.
It's with you.
That's pretty good. And now for a groan. And I'll count to 3. And then just groan and groan from your knees and from your feet. And just let whatever tension, stress, whatever, just go, okay? So 1, 2, 3. That was pretty good. I think we've got one more though. 1, 2, 3. Okay, we're ready, Michael. So, don't pay any attention to the little man in the front running around. It's our Michael, and he's fine. He's doing fine. And he'll let us know when he's ready. So, I'm happy to be here with you today. It's been an interesting time. Have you noticed? The last time I was here was March 17th, St. Patrick's Day. Doesn't it feel like there's been a lot of life since then?
Yes.
Yeah, it's been pretty intense. And it has been for me too. A couple of weeks ago, my father, who you've heard me speak about many times, made his transition. He was 97.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so, as you well know, because I've spoken about it often, we had a very difficult relationship. It was tough, always. And but we got into the place where we could enjoy one another, but the way it was comfortable or okay for me to do that is from a distance. And so he was in Ohio, and we talked on the phone almost every day. Very few days we didn't speak. And I would send him cards and little gifts and things like that, and that's the way we could do it. And when he passed, there were members of the family who were very upset that I wasn't there and didn't understand and had lots to say about the fact that I wasn't there. And you've probably experienced maybe something like that in your own family, where people always have something to say about what it is that you did or didn't do, right? And what that whole experience, and I'll share some other things with you too around that, that got me thinking about the distance. There can be a distance between what's expected of us and what our heart is telling us to do. Have you noticed that? You had that a time or two in life? Yeah. And so what we come to understand as conscious beings is that what our heart is telling us to do is always true. Have you noticed that? Doesn't mean it's always easy, but it's always true. And you've also heard me say many times that the highest good does not conflict. It can't. Do you understand that? Highest good cannot conflict. Why? Because we're all one. So the highest good for one is the highest good for another. And so very often we try to make decisions based on what we think that person wants or what the kids need or whatever, when what we need to understand is that we're in touch with our highest good. It is the highest good for them. It is the highest good for the kids. I've worked with many couples who want to stay together for the kids. And the kids who have had to deal with that will tell you no. Right? The highest good is to do what it is that feels what the heart is telling you is the highest good between the two of you. And indeed, it will be the highest good for everyone involved. As I said, it may not be easy, but it will be the highest good. And so there are times, indeed, where what we're doing is not the popular thing. Not at all. And those can be tough times. And that's when we have to really rely on the truth of heart, on the truth of the divine essence that speaks to us through the heart. That we're connected with the all that is. And even if it isn't the popular stance, it is the right thing to do. And what my desire was for my dad in his passing was to be there spiritually for him, that he would have a sense that I was there to support him in his transition. And I prayed and I asked about that, and I asked the divine. It was my desire to be there. And I would like a confirmation of that, and it was, oh dear one, you were there holding his hand the whole way. And he knew it. And that's all I needed to do. That's all I needed to be. And then I had another recent experience along with Dad's passing. I'm also in the process of moving. I've moved from where I've been living for the last almost 7 years to another place because the folks where I live have decided to move back east and are putting their place up for sale, which to me seems like a lot of nerve, but they're... But again, highest good does not conflict. So if it was the highest good for them to do that, it's the highest good for me to move. Well, after I got used to the idea, there was this wonderful person who offered their little cabin on their property for me to move into. It's just this adorable little cabin, and I went and looked at it. It was as cute as it can be. It had not one closet or any place to store anything. And so I knew that if I was going to move in there, I was going to have to get really creative about storage and closet space, all that kind of thing. But it was very cute and all of that. And so as time went on, and everyone at the church and everybody was very happy that I found a place and it was on the island and I was all taken care of and it was great. And so the last time I went over to the cabin to visit before, this was a couple of months ago, I went in there and my heart said, no, this is not the place. This is not your place. This is not where you're supposed to be. I'm going, uh-oh. And everybody thinks I'm all handled, and I'm not. And if it's not here, where? Because I didn't have any other possibilities. Oh. And so I'm thinking, no, I better just be happy with what you have. Mm-mm. No. 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 So I heard myself thanking the woman profusely for offering the place to me, but this isn't going to be my place, and so thank you very much, but no thank you. So I walked out of there and I went, Joanna, what are you doing? But my heart said, this isn't the place. This isn't the place. So I thought, well, if this isn't the place, then there's got to be a place. There will be a place. I don't know where it is. So when I would tell people, I would almost say it apologetically. I'm not going to be moving there. Well, why not? Well, it's not the right place for me. Oh, well, where are you going? Well, I don't know. But I'm going to trust the process. So it wasn't but maybe a week or 10 days later, someone on our church board called somebody who knew somebody who knew somebody had a place that was coming available it was coming available now, and were very concerned about having to get somebody new that they didn't know, because they'd had this wonderful person there for a long time who had to leave, and she was very concerned about it, and so she knew of me, knew who I was, and so when they said I was looking, she reached right out to me and whatever, and to make a longer story short, that's where I'm moving tomorrow. And it's perfect. It's totally perfect. It couldn't be any more perfect than it is. And it has lots of closet space. It has a walk-in closet. It has a linen closet in the bathroom. Anyway, it's a testament to that very thing that is listening to the heart, because if I had forced the cabin thing to work, I would have missed this opportunity, which was much better for me. And works for the woman who owns the house and everything. And I'm really clear that for the people who offered the place to me, that really wasn't what they wanted to do. But they were too nice to rescind the offer. And something in there, I could feel that. And now they are busy creating that cabin, getting it ready to be an Airbnb place this summer. And they're thrilled. So that's the deal, is being willing to trust. First thing is listening. Second is being willing to follow what you hear. And that takes some courage. It really does. Any questions or comments about that? Are we clear that that place in our heart is our connection to divine essence? I was thinking as Michael was coming in setting up, and I was thinking, wow, this is Palm Sunday. I don't know why that made me think of that, but it did. And I'm thinking, wow, we're not talking about Palm Sunday. We're not talking about Jesus riding in on the donkey into Jerusalem all triumphantly and then placing the palms down before him. The King of the Jews, yay, he's coming, he's here. He had just raised Lazarus from the dead, and there was a lot of news. There was some traction happening out there for him. It's like, maybe we need to check into this guy, raising people from the dead. That's a big deal. You don't hear about that all the time. Well, you don't. You still don't. And so there was a buzz about him. And that was part of what was really upsetting the powers that be, seeing the buzz there was about him. And what Palm Sunday, the experience of Palm Sunday is all about, really does speak to what we're talking about, because it's the distance between following our heart and doing what's expected of us. And that whole thing, that whole scene, that whole scenario, which was very contrived, of the welcome of Jesus into Jerusalem. People were paid. I know none of that ever happens today. Oh my goodness. But there's all this, it wasn't about what's really happening. It wasn't about, here comes a being who speaks to the truth of my heart. It wasn't about that. It was totally a political outpicturing event. It was completely political. And in our world today, it's really easy to get caught in the current of what is politically correct, of what is expected of us, of what the crowd is doing, right? And it's more important than ever for us to be willing to look past that and feel past that to what the truth of our heart is expressing, because it may be telling us something very different. And here's my third example. A few years ago, in this very house that I'm moving out of, this is probably 4 or 5 years ago, during the night, all 10 of the smoke alarms started to go off. 10. Oh my goodness sake, I will never forget that. It was the loudest thing I've ever heard. And it was like, oh, and I jumped out of the bed and I go running up the stairs. Is everybody okay? And it turned out that the fire was in my room. It was down there. And so I came running down and I look, and we had one of those You know those heaters that are inset into the wall? And I looked in there and I could see flames and smoke, and so I quickly, the register part, great thing, was hot, but I pulled it off, and there's all these flames. And so Jean upstairs called 911, and they said, get out of the house. And so she said, come on, come on, they said to get out of the house, let's get out of the house. And I started to go up the stairs, and I heard this voice, as clear as my voice now, saying, you can do this. You can do this. So I'm, okay, so I run into the kitchen, the retardant, that spray can stuff. And so I go running back with that, and I start spraying in there, and I'm hearing Jean yelling, come on, they said to get out, come on, get out. But I kept hearing, you can do this, you can do this. And so I sprayed and sprayed and sprayed, and the flames went down. And then they came back up again. So I went and I just kept spraying and spraying and spraying, and finally, there's foam everywhere and all that, but it stopped, and it stayed stopped. And so she said, come on. She goes, here comes the fire department. And so as I was coming up the stairs, they come up, and the fireman comes up to the door, and he goes, why are you still in the house? And I said, well, come here. I think I got it. He goes, yeah, but you're not supposed to be in the house. And I said, I think it's, let me show you. So I took them down, there were three of them, and they came down, and he's got that thing that checks for heat, on the walls and all that. And of course, this is a wood house. This is a log house. And so he's looking at it, and he's looking underneath there, and he's digging around, and he goes behind, and he's going, and he says, you know what? You should have got out of the house, but you know what, ma'am? I think you saved this place from going up. I really do. But you should have got out of the house. and so it's kind of a kind of an exaggerated example, but it was, I was supposed to get out of the house, but something told me you could do this. You can do this. You can do this. And I kept hearing that. And so it was like my heart was telling me, you got this. You can do this. The house does not have to go up. You can stop it right here, right now, if you're willing to do this. And I did. And who knows? Who knows? But that's what the fireman said. Ma'am, you kept this place from going up. So it was like, it wasn't me, it was my heart telling me this is what you need to do. And so there has to be a willingness to listen. Now, in those traumatic moments, we don't know what we're going to do. I recommend that you listen to what your heart's telling you, if you're clear that your heart's telling you something. Because I wouldn't recommend to you to not get out of the house if that's what you're supposed to do. I'm not going to say that to you. But if your heart says to you, you can do this, and you're getting it from that deepest place inside. It's what I did, and the house didn't burn. And I guess it could have. So these are just kind of little examples, a couple little ones and a bigger one, that are examples of how the opportunity is there for us all the time. We are always connected to the highest good, to the source of that highest good. The challenge or the variable or the opportunity is whether or not in any given moment are we going to listen to it. And sometimes there's a lot of pressure on us not to. It's not always as dramatic as a fire, but it can be what the family wants us to do, or what our boss wants us to do, or what the board wants us to do, or what our kids want us to do, or what the neighbors are getting together and deciding to do, or whatever it is, or what the TV is telling you to do or not do. There's never been a more important time than right now to be in a working relationship with, in a hand-to-hand, heart-to-heart, no pun intended, relationship with this source energy that is advising you, that's available all the time. Of Questions or comments about that?
Through some challenging times that have been going on and similar, that whole thing of yeah, but should, versus, and the thing that's helped me most was I pulled out the book that I had. Because I have so many books, I never thought I could put my hand right on it again. But it was the How to Pray Without Talking to God. And that's the book that Silent Unity has been using all these years to teach prayer. And it addresses that so well, the difference between our divine self and our rationalizing ego, and how that kicks in, and the difference between staying downstream, looking downstream versus looking upstream. And it's an awesome book that I recommend anybody that hasn't ever had it, but it really, really sets in with exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. And the more we practice connecting to Source in here, the easier it is in a time when something's going on and we really needing clarity to have access to it. It's always there. It isn't more there for someone else than another. The variance is how we're listening or not listening.
And that's why the whole part about that is about establishing that strong relationship through prayer, through meditation and such, that you have that strength. Because what I found is that I lose it whenever, it's like everything I know to do when I'm in the midst of my stuff. Things I teach other people or coach other people on seem to be all out the window, and it's like, I can't, But I know that that's because of my own lack of connection strong enough to go to at that
Yeah,
time.
and it is what it is. You work from here. You work where you are. You work with the connection you have and just strengthen it as best you can, moment to moment, day to day. And this can be challenging in a partnership and with couples and that, because we don't grow at the same rate. We don't evolve at the same rate. One of you can be what they call a Zoomer, and the other one may not be. And so part of the connection and partnership is, are you willing to let the person you're with grow at their own rate? And that it may well be different than yours. And there may be times when they're way out there ahead of you and you're coming along, or maybe it's you and it's this way. And can you, and that unfortunately is the thing that blows up a lot of relationships, is that they can't do that. That it's too threatening. That it's too, it tears the connection apart because it feels like they're not on the same page. Does that make sense? Have you had experiences like that?
I had a major one just this morning of over a 60-year relationship, of something that has gone on back when I was like a teenager, but it's carried on because it's in family. And to something that came through around not my fault, not their fault. It was like looking at where they were, where I was, and looking at things differently, but how that had contaminated things throughout years of being built on. But it was my shift in consciousness that I noticed will allow that shift. Where we're one, because that's where I was connected when that shifted this morning.
Yeah, and thank you for that. And that's one of the things that can help in a relationship when two people are moving and growing at different rates, is that if we can stay in our heart and trust the process, remember the highest good for me is the highest good for them. And so if we can stay there with it, we can get through it. We can manage through it. When we get back into our heads and our egos or whatever, that makes it really tough. But if we can stay here and speak from here and operate from here as much as possible, it's really helpful to support those different growth spurts that each one
Because the
has.
hardest thing is, this part goes to facts and circumstances we're at, and this is in the unseeable, in the
Yeah, that's right.
unmanifested.
And the thing that we tend to do so often is that when we've got something going on, like the move, like a death of a loved one, like a whatever, emergency, whatever it is, when we've got something going on, very often what we tend to do is to scrunch ourselves down to the size of the circumstance. And that's painful.
Yeah.
It hurts. That's how we get stiff necks and a backache and, like this, and things, and painful because we're scrunching ourselves down to the size of the circumstance. We can't see beyond it. And we get lost in the drama. I know none of you ever done that. But trust me, that happens. We get lost in the drama of it. We don't see past it. We don't encapsulate it with the truth of who we are. Because as soon as we do that, we know that we're more than this circumstance, whatever it is. And that then gives us opportunities for dealing with it. But if we're down to the size of it, it's painful. It's lonely. It's very lonely there. Bless you. And so the opportunity is then, and that can be a really good way to see it and be reminded is, I'm feeling miserable around this. Wow, what I've probably done is scrunched down to the size of this situation. Does that make sense? Questions or comments about that? Can you relate to that? Yeah. Yes.
Joanna, not a comment so much as Michael's here and standing by, and we've kind of upset the schedule. I wonder if we could have him do a couple of musical things, and then you can fill up the remainder time.
We're at the end of it anyway, dear, so we could do a meditation after. You want to do some music and then we'll do meditation? That's fine. Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions or comments before we do that? Yes, ma'am.
I just want to say, I know why we're here today. Oh, excuse me. I've been given, I'm going to call it an opportunity now. I had a client, my major client, who notified me my services would no longer be needed. Well, I just turned 70 last week, and I'm like, oh no, what do I do now? And I don't want to do what I'm still doing. So I'm thinking, if I listen to my heart, what do I get to do? And it's feeling more like an adventure. Michael's sitting there biting his nails, I'm quite sure, because his wife has gone crazy again. But it really is, it's an opportunity at my age to say, now what do I want to do? I've been doing accounting for years and years and years, and I hate accounting. What I've done is interesting, but it's not me. And now I'm going, wait a minute. It might be a little rocky to begin with, but that's that stepping out on faith. So now I'm feeling like I'm on a precipice. Maybe I should fly from there.
Yeah.
Instead of worrying about falling.
Good for you.
So I'm glad I'm here.
Good for you.
Thank you.
It's good for you. Because divine has no ageism. Divine has no limitations, but very often we have to close the door in order to allow one to open. Like the whole moving thing for me. I had to let go of that opportunity in order to make room for the one that really was the right one. So good for you. And I have no doubt that you'll be telling us about what that next step turned out to be. And it was awesome. Yes,
I find it interesting that there was a fire in the building and you was being told to get out and leave at the same time that you were making that decision.
well, this was some years ago. That fire happened some years ago.
Oh,
But I appreciate the thought of that. Yes, yes. Well, it's interesting that it comes up now at the time when I'm having to leave. Yeah, thank you. So, Michael, if you want to do some music, and then we'll do a little meditation.